Hello guys, my name is Amit Sani and I welcome you in this 3rd December The Hindu analysis video. In the morning, these videos come. In the evening, Mahipal sir is taking MCQ lesson that is available on StudyIQ Premium now, and it's a very important series. If you are serious about the next year's Prelims examination, then that is going to be the most important source. You see, it's a paid content now because a lot of effort is going into that, and on the free platform, that kind of input is very difficult because a lot is discussed there, and the content is very rich, and a lot of effort, a lot of discussion, a lot of choosing of the content that goes into that. So that's why it's a paid platform, but the prices are way lower for such an important content and than any other platform. So I suggest you join that. Very important content is there, and Pocket News app is trending on Google Play regarding these courses. You can get the information. That is the link to join there. And if you face any issue in the payments or any query regarding any other courses, then you can call on here on these numbers, and the PDF you will get on Telegram channel, whose link is given on the Facebook's group here. So here you can send me a request. You can follow me on Instagram too. First issue: panel finalizes role of Chief of Defence Staff. You see, on 15th of August, our Prime Minister of India, he announced the position of CDS, the Chief of Defence Staff. The demand was very old, but some support and some opposition was also there. You see, these staff members from the upper ranks of the forces there, some of them were not happy with this decision because this CDS is going to be an important position above the three chiefs, the chiefs of the three forces there. So it is going to be a kind of a undermining of those ranks there, and how much important it would be, some apprehensions were there. But this announcement is very important. The Chief of the Defence Staff will act as the single point military advisor to the Government of India on military and strategic issues, and it will oversee procurement, training and logistics issues. So instead of getting suggestions from three separate officers there, a single point military advisor is going to be there. So General Bipin Rawat is going to be the first CDS. That was announced in December. The notification will come, and right now he is the Chief of Army there, and he is one of those rare officers who have completed 3 years on that position. So that's huge, and the government has said now that the post would come within the ambit of the RTI Act. That is the biggest announcement here, because it will be related to the defense issue overall, but it will come under RTI provisions. So that's very important. Okay, and there was an important committee constituted to finalize the responsibilities of the soon to be created post. So they have given their reply here, and now government said that it will come under RTI, and CDS, Chief of Defence Staff, is going to be there. Okay, the appointment is expected to be announced in December. That's important. And the responsibility for General Bipin Rawat is very huge, because he's likely to get a term of over 2 years as the CDS, first CDS, which will largely see the creation of new structure to provide military advice to the government and implement joint procurement by three services there. So it is happening for the first time for this position, and it is going to be huge a responsibility. And you see, new structure is certainly going to be there, because if we are going to create a single point advisory, then a lot will go into it. And important thing to note down here, that sources have confirmed that a committee tasked to draw out the role, responsibility and the powers of the CDS has submitted its report. Okay, they have given the report, and it is to be approved by CCS, the Cabinet Committee on Security, headed by Prime Minister of India. So the final decision will come on that, and the recommendation includes creation of a post senior to the current service chiefs with an age limit of 64 years. So it is there for the CDS there. And many challenges remain here because the shrinking capital budget of the defense ministry, you see, in terms of the percentage of the GDP, it is coming down consistently, and this CDS role will determine the immediate procurement cycles for the three forces. So very prudent and important constructive decisions CDS will have to take there. So a huge responsibility. Okay, so that was announced on 15th of August, and important details for prelims and mains both are here. Next, Siberia Pipeline cements China-Russia bond. Important issue for GS paper 2. The important term is power of Siberia. What is this power of Siberia? A gas pipeline, a massive cross-border undertaking not only central to China's energy security, but also for bolstering special ties between Beijing and Moscow. You see, China, a highly developing nation, energy security is something very, very crucial, but the environmental concerns are also very, very huge. So instead of coal, if they use gas, then it is a better option for sure. So it is beneficial for China, its energy security, and most importantly, the improving relations between Russia and China. They have a common enemy called USA, and both are coming on the same page. They had a very conflicting past. Communist China, socialist Russia, means the socialist Soviet Union. They had many differences, but now they are coming together, and both are rising, both are having a great time, you see, in this world of geopolitics there. So their military strength is rising, their spending is rising, and their dominance is surely there. And the SCO group is very, very crucial there, where India and Pakistan both are included as a permanent member there. So we have a special understanding of this China-Russia relations. And I always say it's an Asian century, and we should be more with Russia and China there. And staying more with Russia and China is extremely beneficial for us, because if this trio is on the same page, then it's the biggest force. Okay, and US will be heavily undermined there. But the diaspora issues are there, and the past and the position of US, the past position, and still the biggest country, a lot of issues are there. But this Asian issue of Russia-China linkage, that is very, very important. So that is also improving with this important power of Siberia issue. The gas giant Gazprom, who have also done an important agreement with the Gas Authority of India Limited in 2012. So that's a well-known gas giant there in Russia. That is gonna lead this important issue here, and both the leaders, Jinping and Mr. Putin, they were invited there, and with the remote starting of this issue, the gas transmission is started. Okay, it is going through this area. If you see the map here, this is Russia. Okay, this is Russia, and this is Chinese Manchuria region. Okay, the northeastern region of China. This is Mongolia here. You can see the borders. This is Mongolia, and this is Kazakhstan here. This is the border, and here it is the small part of China. If you can see here. So China touching Russia here in this small narrow region, and this is Mongolia, and this is China. Here the Amur River, the boundary between Russia and China here. Okay, Sakhalin Peninsula, very important one, and the whole Siberian region, the eastern region, where Russia is focusing a lot. Okay, the famous issue of India extending line of credit to Russia there for the development of this eastern region, that is well known, and this was the highlight of this year. So it was the same reason here, where Russia is focusing a lot of economic development is happening there, and enormous potential is there in this region. Till date it has been a cold desert, but now many hopes for the development, they are rising consistently. So Russia has enormous reserves for gas. That is a well-known issue. So here these Kotinskoye and Chandiskoye, these two gas fields are there, and from here this power of Siberia will start, an important gas pipeline, and crossing the Amur River there through a tunnel, it is going to enter China from this Lagovesting's region. Okay, so that is power of Siberia, totally the eastern region of Russia and northeastern part of China. So very important decision there, a strategic decision. Economy certainly supported there. It's a 30-year project, $400 billion gas deal, and next 30 years Russia will deliver 1 trillion cubic meters of natural gas to China. So Amur River, these gas fields which are mentioned here, the Chandiskoye and Kovtiska fields, so they may be asked in prelims examination. Okay, and the power of Siberia, simple. Next, manufacturing, PMI improves. PMI, Purchasing Managers Index. First we know what is Purchasing Managers Index. In 1948 it was developed by a US economist, and the PMI is an index of prevailing direction of economic trends in the manufacturing and services sector. Especially for these two important sectors, they see the trend, that in which direction the wind is blowing. It consists of a diffusion index in America, where they observe the stock market there, the position of the shares of these companies, and whether the market conditions are favorable, they are improving or they are declining there. So it is immense help for the company decision makers, analysts and investors there. If you see in India, it is derived from a series of qualitative questions. Executives from a reasonably big sample running into hundreds of firms are asked whether key indicators such as output, new order, business expectations and employment, they were stronger than the month before, and they ask them to rate these important categories. So if the figure is above 50, that denotes expansion in the business activity. So here what happened, from 50.6 in October, it is now 51.2 in November. So the score is above 50, that means an expansion in the activity and it's an improvement. So it should be above 50 always if we expect an expansion in the economy and some positivity if you want to see there, as we all want to see. So it is above 50, it is very very good, and below 50 it's a contraction. So that's the simple issue of Purchasing Managers Index. Nikkei India MPI is Nikkei India Manufacturing Purchasing Manager Index, that is telling these numbers. Okay, so that's important. But the big worry is that the jobs are declining day by day, and it's a consistent trend now that more and more jobs are getting lost. More jobs lost means the demand will further deteriorate, because if people will not have jobs, they will not have any money, any disposable income will not be there with them. So why they will go to market if they do not have any money? So the demand will further deteriorate in the economy, and that is a devastating thing, because already the demand is very low and no jobs are there for the youth, and existing jobs, they are getting lost. So that's why the demand condition is really very bad in our country today, and that is the main reason of this whole economic slowdown and maybe a potential crisis that is going on, and that is not being recognized by the government, because government said that there can never be a recession in Indian economy. So the great economist Nirmala Sitharaman ji said something like that, but these things are not supported by factual claims, because facts are telling a different truth, and many economists, they say that we are in a recession there. So that's why it's a unique situation today. Okay, and these numbers, they show some positivity, but they are showing some concerns also. The next information is regarding the automobile sector. You see, the complex condition with the automobile sector is totally visible here. You see, the environmental concerns are there. So we are talking about the electric vehicles, and the issue of Bharat stage norms, BS6 norms, that are going to be applicable from April 2020 in the whole country. So the engines of these vehicles, two-wheelers and four-wheelers both, their engines, they should comply with the BS6 norms. So they need to upgrade their engines also, and that will make the price for these vehicles on a higher side. So that is also going to rise. Already they are facing a slowdown. Already the sales are very low. Now the BS4 vehicles which are ready to sell, they are not getting sold. What's going to happen for them? Next, they need to comply with the BS6. So the higher price will come for the newer vehicles. So what about their sales? And simultaneously we are talking about the electric vehicles and their development. So many challenges are there, and that's the reason that in November double digit decline was seen in the two-wheeler wholesale sector. TVS, Bajaj, they all said that big declines were there. Like for TVS, 26.5% decline. Bajaj reported 14% decline there. So that's a gloomy story from the sector there. But you see, they are hoping for some better conditions there, and they are hoping that the market will improve. Some sales were high in October month, but November, December, what kind of stories there we have to see, because throughout the sector, two-wheeler or four-wheeler, they are reporting a decline, and in comparison, it's a negative stage there. So that's the situation, and that's some indication there. More informations will come on that issue. It's a huge issue. Now, motivating information, Sub-Lieutenant Shivangi you are looking at, and who became the first woman pilot to join the Indian Navy on Monday. Hailing from Muzaffarpur in Bihar, she was awarded the coveted Golden Wings and joined operational duties at Kochi Naval Base. She is going to be the first woman officer who is inducted into operational duties. Okay, so that's motivating information, and a lot of information we have seen regarding her on the social media, and that's a big boosting factor for the women empowerment there. So we need more and more empowered women in this country, and the balance should be there, because the condition in the backward regions is so bad for females, and all these incidents of rapes, abuses, and all these problems, they are evident more from the backward regions. So this is important. Next, the well discussed data and the graph and the data. You should have a look here, and we had discussed these GFCF issues and the consumer expenditure issues. The whole lecture we devoted for the same when the 4.5% numbers came. So that is well discussed. Please go through these datas, and you will have some important points for the mains questioning there. Okay, so that's important. Next, the article of the day, taking stock of anti-AIDS fight. 1st December, the World AIDS Day. This is a kind of a menace where some kind of a complacency is visible. Means people think that not much information is there in the public domain, on the social media. Cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, they are more discussed. Their information is way more visible today. AIDS is not that much in the picture, but this menace is still there, and that is equally threatening, and you can never undermine that, because till date there is no solution, there is no treatment. Only you can suppress the HIV virus, the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV. What it does, it eats the person's immunity, and the person becomes immunodeficient day by day, and it gets caught by the common diseases, and most importantly the tuberculosis and some type of cancers. They end the person's life. So the nexus of HIV and TB is it's a huge menace, especially in the country like India, where MDR TB is there, and the HIV patients are extremely vulnerable for that. So a consistent treatment, the antiretroviral therapy, is needed there, and the supply of that therapy is also very crucial. So here, if we see the numbers, the world has made a target of ending these epidemics of AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, the biggest three killers, in Sustainable Development Goal 3.3. Goal number 3.3 talks about that, and the key indicator chosen to track the progress in achieving the target for HIV/AIDS newly is the number of new HIV infections per 1,000 uninfected population. Means out of per 1,000 normal people, how many HIV infected people are there. So that's a new category there, and that's a new indicator for the observation of the progress there. And the key population issue. What are the key populations there? The homosexuals, the men who have sex with men, the people who use injected drugs, the drug addicts, sex workers, their clients, and transgender persons there. So they are extremely vulnerable categories who can spread the virus to many people, and they have a high probability of getting the virus there. So it spreads, okay, the virus is spreading there. So that's the issue. And here you see UN-AIDS, the most important body globally, that is battling the problem of HIV there, and a specific strategy, 90-90-90 strategy, or you may say target is there. They say that by 2020, next year, very next year, 90% of those living with HIV, they should know their HIV status, that they are HIV positive. And 90% of all people which are diagnosed HIV infection, they should receive the antiretroviral therapy, ART, drug line there. So ART 1 or 2, whichever is needed, they should get that. And consistent supply of that therapy is needed, and they should comply with the course. And lastly, 90% of all the people on such therapy will have a viral suppression. The virus should be suppressed. You cannot eliminate the virus, but you can consistently boost the immunity with these drugs. So that's why the virus may be suppressed, and you may keep these virus suppressed for many years. Okay, that is possible with the ART drug system, because many people we have now who are living with HIV for more than 20-25 years. Those kind of people we have today. So that's why these drugs are extremely important. And you see, the issues are gaps in detection, initiation of drug therapy, effective viral control, and all these problems, all these challenges we need to bridge there. Okay, because we have a specific target there, but instead of being this 90-90-90 strategy, the most important one, we are not complying there, because only 19 countries are gonna reach up to those satisfactory levels where we can say that they have followed this 90-90-90 strategy, because the numbers, they are telling a different story. As the end of the 2018 year, 79% only who know the status. So it is not 90%. Only 79% of all persons identified as being infected by HIV, they were aware of their status. 62% were on treatment who were diagnosed. Only 62% are on treatment, and only 53% had achieved viral suppression. So that's a huge challenge, and that remains a big problem, because they can infect other people also. And you see, other medical complexities are also visible now, because it's been 3 decades now that we are observing the ART treatment there. So some success is there, but many other problems are arising, because it's a new situation in front of us. We are not giving it for 40, 50, 60, 70 years. This treatment we are giving for maximum 30 years. So some coronary heart problems are there, because the lifelong drugs, they have many side effects. So these are some negative issues attached with the treatment. So that is also a big challenge. And you see that deaths are still there in huge number. Out of all the infections, 7,70,000 people, they died in 18. 1.7 million persons were newly affected. That's a huge challenge. And there are worrying high rates of new infections in several parts of the world, especially among young persons, because the kind of awareness which was there in 90s and 2000s, with that is not there today in this age of social media. You do not see many issues regarding HIV on the social media. So the new generation, they are not that much alert about HIV today. And only 19 countries are on track to reach the 2030 target. Okay, so that's a negative observation here. Otherwise, some positives are also there, like the reduction in the new HIV infection by 37% in 18 years. HIV related deaths fell by 45%, and we could save 13.6 million lives due to ART therapy there. And the generic medicines, they are the biggest gift for these people's life. Why? Because what are generic versions means, suppose the original maker makes a tablet for 10,000 rupees per tablet. Okay, but that cannot be afforded by any poor person. And in countries like Africa's countries, India and other countries, so the poor people, they cannot get that treatment because it is extremely expensive. So the copy of that original drug is made, and that's called generic medicine. The same drug, but it's a copy there, and that will be sold for example, it is sold for 100 rupees per tablet. So instead of 10,000, it is sold for 100 rupees per tablet. So now that is affordable. So these generic versions, they are made generously and they are allowed by many countries, and they are saving many lives. So the world was in panic when this issue came, and many people, they were losing lives because of HIV. So it was a panic condition in this world. So that's why a lot of awareness came in last 20 years, but now a new revision is needed there. Okay, and especially these vulnerabilities, you see 22 times higher in homosexuals, men and intravenous drug users, 21 times higher in sex workers, 12 times more vulnerability in transgender persons. So these key populations we have to focus on. And the complacency, that is dangerous, because somehow we have become complacent about the situation here. We think that a lot of success is achieved and people are living with HIV infection and they are not facing any problem, but that's not the truth. They are facing a lot of problems, and just the case is that there is a decrease in the death rate by HIV, but still people are dying. And as we have seen, only 53% people could suppress their virus there. So we have to focus on the challenges and the vulnerability of adolescent girls to sexual exploitation by older men, domineering male behaviors, and HIV infected males, they are spreading HIV to other people. Means if some person is dying because of HIV, that person thinks that I should take 100 people with me, so he would try to spread this virus as much as he or she can. So that kind of behavior is also observed in some communities there. So that's the issue. And the medical complications of the therapy, like these drugs increase the risk of atherosclerosis, that creates the cardiovascular problems, mental health disorders, because people are on lifelong treatment, so they develop many mental health disorders consistently in this sphere. So many challenges we need to focus on, because these things are new. These disorders, these time dependent observations, they are visible now, so we have to focus on that. The condition of India, a little better, you may say, because HIV infections now affect 22 people out of 10,000 Indians. Earlier in 2001, it was 38 out of 10,000. And India has estimated 2.14 million people living with HIV. And out of these 20 lakh people, 21 lakh people, 8.7 lakh are females. So more male infected people are living in India. And Mizoram, maximum number of these people, 204 out of 10,000 people, they get affected. Okay, so we need to focus on these eastern states where the prevalence is more. Okay, and the lethal combination of HIV TB is also a big menace there. Okay, the NACO body is working, this AIDS control program is going on in this country, so the consistent budget is required, and more research is needed, because mere technical innovations will not win the situation, but they are the biggest help. Okay, this year the theme is ending the HIV AIDS epidemic community by community. So that's a very realistic and a relevant goal, and we have to focus on that, because there are specific communities, vulnerable communities, which has more prevalence and they can infect more and more people. So we have to discuss, focus and take action on all those issues. So important issue for GS paper 2 and 3 both. Next, Ashok AGR issues going on, and the Vodafone, Idea, Airtel, these companies, they are totally under stress, or you may say fear. In 2001, these companies, they signed that agreement of revenue share model, and when this model was started, it was a kind of a very stuck condition, and the license fee would have been devastating, so they had to start with the revenue sharing agreement. This was the biggest challenge for the Vajpayee's government at that time in 1999, and many apprehensions and challenges were there. Allegations were there on the government that why they are starting with the revenue sharing model, but that was a necessary condition at that time. But now the same agreement, which was thought to be a solution at that phase, that is a hanging sword on their heads now. You see, we have to see the history. So the whole article talks about the history, how this sector developed, and how this was the flamboyant sector, but today it's a kind of a tipping point there. Okay, and certainly these players, they are standing on a turning point there, and we are heading towards a kind of a monopoly there, where only the Jio company is at some advantage, all others are facing many difficulties to survive there. So in early 90s, India had merely 7 million telephones, and the waiting time to get a new connection was 7 to 8 years. So that was difficult, it was. And the issue of ARPU, average revenue per user, was just 1250 rupees. So that was not sustainable for the companies, and that was too high for the Indians at that time. So it was a very difficult situation. So that's why the wireless telephony was proposed, and that was the best solution for that, because that was cheaper way. Although it's a advanced thing, and it was a newer thing, but that was cheaper one, because wireless connections are very cheap. Today you see the condition, the cheapest condition is there in our country. So they went ahead with that, but the issue was of the licensing fee. Okay, the first telecom auction for private players were in 1995, but the licensing fee, that was standing on a very unsustainable platform, because if they would have paid licensing fee for these spectrums, then this would have become very expensive for Indians. So why they will use this service there? So automatically it will be a failed idea, but that was necessary too, and to put India on a fast progressing trajectory, that was something very much needed. So the Vajpayee's government was in a big dilemma. So in the end, it was decided that they will go with the revenue share model, that companies will earn something and the revenue share will be given to the government. So at that time, it was the solution. So they signed this agreement in 2001, and from 300 million telephone lines to 900 million lines. This was the improvement in just 4 years. In 2007, this revenue share model that found new options there, and the same revenue share model that was continued, and these companies, Arcom, Tata Services, they came, the Docomo came, and what happened at that time? They dropped tariffs, and that was the cheapest time for these voice calls and all. So it was a drastic change in our telecom sector, and at that time operators were haggling for 3G spectrum in 900 MHz and 1800 megahertz bands. So we were moving ahead with this consistent progress. Then around 2013, government made available some spectrum in 2300 and 2500 megahertz bands. So that was not suitable for 3G technology, and 4G was in its infancy. So only Jio company was there who found this opportunity. Others were not interested. At that time, Vodafone, Airtel, Idea, they were the biggest players there, but they did not put much interest in that proposal. Jio won the deal, and it took 4 years to Jio, and the 4G service in late 16 that started. Voice calls almost free, offered good quality video call on smart handsets and a very low tariff. So that was a kind of a big boom and a big revolution. But what about Airtel, Idea and Vodafone? They were devastated. They were not interested in the starting, but now they were bound to come into this arena. So they went ahead in the later auctions, and then they could not pay the high amount for the spectrum. So it was a very difficult phase for these companies. So since then they are finding it very very difficult to survive. And now the revenue sharing agreement, that is haunting them, because the Supreme Court that gave a decision that is totally against these companies, because they said that just on telecom revenue we can share something to the government, and the sales proceeds on handsets, renting of their towers, infrastructure sharing, and the dividend from any investment, we cannot share their revenues to the government. But government said, and the Supreme Court said, that they have to share there. So 1.3 lakh crore, almost 1.3 lakh crore they need to pay, and the whole sector is under 7 lakh crore debt. So it's a very difficult phase, it's a turning point. And the monopoly of Geo, and you see some players there, so that's not good for the market. It is very very necessary that multiple players are there in Indian market, otherwise this will be a big problem. Because if the monopoly is there, then that company can play with consumers life, because consumers will be dependent on that service. And no other company is surviving. Like today, BSNL, no, it's not surviving. MTL, no surviving. And Airtel, Vodafone Idea, finding it very very difficult. And after these payments, nothing will be left for them, so they will exit for sure. So only Jio will remain. Then Jio will raise the prices on its wishes. Okay, and this can be a devastating phase for the Indians. So here it is necessary that multiple players compete in the telecom sector, and the prices are always controlled. And government should not look at the telecom sector primarily as a revenue earner. Why? Because today 30% of customer bill is going to the government. Corporate taxes, government's telecom revenue includes GST, spectrum auction, revenue share, and these all things, they add up to 30% of the customer's bill, and that is going to the government. So it's a win-win situation for the government. So they are now getting the money out of that revenue sharing agreement, and these things are being paid to the government. So it's a kind of a very profitable area for the government, which is crying for the receipts. So they should not look this sector as a revenue earner. And if they keep looking at it like this, and when we are moving towards the monopoly of Geo, then it may be a devastating thing for India. So that's why we should bring this balance there, and government's responsibility is really really huge here. So that's the article. Please go through the text, and a lot of clarity you will have. So thanks a lot, keep watching. It was a